Very welcome to the third part. We will now discuss what we just heard about FinTech, about green finance with three experts. I'm very glad to have you all here. Welcome. We have Jörg Gasser, former State Secretary and now CEO of the Swiss Bankers Association. We have Reto Rinker, founder and CEO of the Globalance Bank, a private bank with, I would say, sustainability in its core. But before that, he was also founder of SAM, where we developed the the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. And then we have Adriano Lucatelli. He's co-founder and CEO of Descartes Finance, a digital Swiss asset manager. Very welcome. So what we just heard, I would like to ask Jörg Gasser, can you maybe just bring everybody on the same page a bit? Where do we stand at the moment in Switzerland with sustainable finance?
Thank you very much. Sustainable finance penetrates the whole fabric of Swiss banking, actually, and there is a lot going on currently. I think on the investment and lending side, we are quite up to speed. 30% of all the investments and all the assets are going into ESG conform investments, and we passed this year for the first time the 1 trillion benchmark of Swiss francs being invested into ESG assets. So from this point of view, we are on a very good track, which is not surprising in view of the fact that Switzerland is the greatest wealth manager worldwide. It speaks for itself. So from that point of view, we are on track. On the other hand side, with regards to finance, the situation is much more critical in the sense that it's much more complex. What it is very important and what we are currently working on is on transparency. If we listen to what Roger Hallam said of Extinction Rebellion, that we need to tell the truth and act, it is very important to be able to be transparent on what we do with regard to ESG. And in order to be transparent, you need to be able to measure what kind of products you propose to the market, products that need to be in conformity with the ESG criteria. And in order to be able to measure, you need a taxonomy. So from that point of view, this is certainly one of the most pressing issues in order to tell the truth and in order to act now. And from that point of view, Switzerland is in a very good position in view of its framework that it built up throughout the years. Reto can confirm this with SAM, that has been founded 25 years ago. We are a pioneer in sustainable finance. We have the highest density of top universities here in Switzerland, so we have the know-how, not only from the science point of view, but also with regard to the knowledge and know-how in banking. And the framework conditions are very well with regard to regulation. We are open, a liberal, very well-connected economy, and from that point of view, our ambition is to become a leader in sustainable finance.
Thank you. So, Reto Rinker, he just said we have to become a leader in sustainable finance. In your eyes, where do we have to go as Switzerland and the Swiss financial sector?
I mean, I think it's very interesting to see where we stand today compared to where we started and where we might end up in 5 or 10 years. So I think Switzerland was really leading some 25 years ago. We had some banks, some asset managers that were focused on. We had microfinance also, that was a cluster here in Switzerland. And then we lost a bit of track in the last 10 years, especially on the banking side. Not so on the insurance side. I worked with Swiss Re, and Swiss Re is really a company that understands the data, the dynamics, climate change, and its implication on their business. My understanding so far is banks are not there. They have to build it up. In the meantime, there have been other asset management sectors in the US, in the Netherlands, in France, that developed skills, resources that were innovative. So I think we really have to speed up and define where do we have an opportunity, where are we competitive and we're not. The race is on. I think especially on the institutional asset management side, the big players have entered the court and they have a lot of resources. So I think it would be very important for Switzerland to define kind of a vision, for the market, for financial market Switzerland. Where do we want to go?
Mm-hmm. So the race is on. How can financial technologies, FinTechs, play a role there? How can they help to speed up?
But just doing it 5 years ago when we started, we were kind of the strange animal in the zoo because we banked virtually on sustainability. Now it's common. The problem we face is pricing. Everyone is expecting us, being FinTech, to be cheap, and that means really cheap. If you want to go that route, then you are left with indexing, with cheap, low-cost, zero-cost ETFs. If people are ready to go the ESG route for FinTech, then they have to accept that it's not going to be for free. This is our challenge, because we are constantly being compared with the traditional ETF FinTech companies. And then, of course, we are like sometimes 50 basis points apart. And so our challenge is to convince our clients that they get value for it. But yeah, the market will tell.
So maybe to follow up a bit on what you just said, kind of as an established financial institution, now shifting a little bit from becoming, or actually becoming more digital, how does that work, and what are the challenges there, Mr. Rinker?
The challenge is as a supplier to become more digital. I mean, I think the greatest challenge is the culture. And to put, from culture into strategy into execution. So I think strategy and execution might be easier, but to change the mindset, that's the big challenge. And we are in an industry that is not digitized yet. We have been very late into the game. There are other industries that are much further ahead than financial industry when it comes to digitization. We quite often have a compliance-driven approach in Switzerland, in our industry. And, that's not the right approach. Obviously, we have to be compliant with all what we're doing. But in order to be competitive, in order to build up a unique customer experience, if you like, we have to be innovative. We have to take risks, because innovation will also fail. Banks are not that strong in risk-taking. And in the last couple of years, the risk-taking culture has been reduced because, of all the, environments in regulation. So I think the biggest challenge is culture, and the big question is it easier, for the players to build up their culture inside, or maybe to build some silo within the organization and give them a chance to build up disrupting products, because as Jack Ma said, you better disrupt yourself before the others are doing it. And so I think, to answer your question, the biggest challenge is the culture.
Before coming to the other side, more the FinTech side, Jörg, you wanted to add on this
I think what you just said with regard to digitalization also applies to ESG. It's a question of culture. I mean, we are always of the opinion that it's the client who should tell us what kind of products he would like to have, and if there is a demand for ESG product, it will come. Problem only is that cultural change is quite slow, and with regard to digitalization, maybe we have some more time, although I doubt it, but with regard to the climate change, we don't have this time. So we're running out of time, and just to believe that the culture will slowly change and it will come automatically like an undercurrent in society, that the demand for ESG products will just rise and there is nothing else anymore, might be true, but it might come too late. And the question is, how can we speed up the whole process? It's the same, just as was said. Do you build up a silo within the institution where you produce this kind of product? You hope you can sell them, as you did 25 years ago. It was a product on the margin, or do you really count on it, and you would like to be the first mover and to bring your whole business in line with ESG in order to really give a push? And this is the question which each institute has to ask itself. Do I want to be a front runner with regard to sustainability? And do I not want to wait for the cultural change, although it happens, but it happens too slow? So I want to go with the current and even speed it up. Or am I just want to be a fast follower in the best case, where I just let myself go with the flow? And I believe Switzerland would be in a very good position if it really would tries to push and to be the first mover with regard to that, because it's a trend. It's not something that will disappear. It's something that is here to stay, and as sooner as you start pushing it, the better you're positioned within the international market.
I mean, the speed is enormous anyway when we talk about digitization, right? And how to follow up with this speed that we have to have for the climate and the speed that we have with digitization. This is an enormous challenge in itself, I would say. Mr. Lucatelli, maybe you can give kind of the other perspective from a FinTech side now. So when you suddenly have customers asking for green products, what are the biggest challenges now, and how do you address them actually?
Well, I like what you just said regarding don't wait for the client to ask you, come out, be innovative, be courageous, pushing the products. That's what we've done 5 years ago. But important, what people kind of forget is the fact that FinTechs are here to scale and standardize. And ESG can be scaled and standardized up to a certain level. And we should not expect to be the FinTechs to be the leader in that space. Because as soon as you want to be as detailed as Globalance, then you have a trade-off between going really sustainability responsibility, or you follow a certain standard, be it the MSCI ESG or whatever, you name it. And there's the trade-off. We can be extremely fast, and we can push that. And I agree with what has been said. Switzerland is definitely leading in the digital asset management space. But then we have to be honest and transparent that what we can do is to bring that industry up to a certain level. Beyond that, it would be greenwashing, and I don't want to do that. The issue is too important to have it as a marketing gimmick. So you have to. There's two ways. Either you go Globalance or you go FinTech, and you need to know what you will have and what will be missing, and then you make up your mind, and also accept that these services do cost and do not come for free.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Rinke, you just launched with Globalance this world map, which is available online. So, when you talked before about the culture that has to change, how did you do it there? What was necessary? How did it work out within Globalance then?
The culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was very easy, because we started on a white sheet of paper, and we attracted people that had, let's say, sustainability investing in their DNA. And then it's pretty easy, because you have passionate people that really want to implement that. Whereas if we would have started Globalance in acquiring a traditional bank and then would have to change the culture, I probably still would, try to change the culture. So I think it's really important that you have the right mindset of people, that you have passionate people, that you put the right incentives, that you stay track, that you are very ambitious and do not give up, on, okay, let's do that. It might be a bit of greenwashing, but, we get away with it. So I think it's really very important to walk the talk. And then you will have people that come up with ideas that really, push the boundaries and are innovative. And I think that's what we need, innovation, because we are far behind when we look at the challenge that we face. If you look at the global investment universe, there are only about 15% of companies that are below 2 degrees of global warming. So how do you create a portfolio where the customer expects to be compliant with the Paris climate agreement? And I think that really takes a lot of efforts and also, innovation, how to do that.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Gasser, you also mentioned before in your speech, actually, that if a customer asks for a green product, we have to make sure that it's really green. How can we do this then? Well,
as I said at the very beginning, you need to be able to measure what's in the product, and for that purpose you need a taxonomy. You need certain indexes that tell you what your footprint will be, ideally what your footprint will be or is with regard to the portfolio that you buy. And how do we do this? Well, this is one of the huge challenges. There are many standards around globally. And I think in order to really be objective and neutral with regards to the taxonomy, you need a global standard. There are certain indications that point towards certain standards that will become global, applicable, like the TCFD standard. It is a standard that is applied worldwide, more or less. So, and this is from my point of view, that's the first thing. You must be able to measure the impact that you have, that you would like to achieve with your portfolio. Once you have that, you become much more transparent with regard to the products that you offer, and you give the client the opportunity to decide what he wants. And then the next step will be the cultural change. As soon as the public realizes that a green portfolio is probably more performant than a traditional portfolio, the undercurrent will become even more and greater and more important, and that then will bring the change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Lucatelli, maybe to add a bit on this, you kind of have to also combine different groups of customers, right? The very young generation that really ask for this green products, and maybe older generations who kind of rely on the typical products. How can you, as a financial provider, then combine these different perspectives? Do you also have to push some of the customers maybe a little bit, or does it come all by itself? I ask you first, and then I go to Reto.
I kind of like the idea of pushing the clients and doing a lot of education. And I don't see a difference between old and young. I see very conservative young people and quite innovative older people. It's the idea of creating an honest, transparent offering. That's the first thing. Don't expect the others, and do a lot of education and prove the industry that your strategy does not come at the cost of yield, of performance. That's what people, the older generation always says, if I can have Novartis, then your performance must be bad, so I buy an ETF, an SMI ETF. No, it doesn't come at a cost. As a matter of fact, your portfolio will be much more robust than any other idea. Maybe you agree with that. I'm a firm believer in that. But the first thing is, we, the fintechs, I speak for the fintech industry, we have to come up with ESG or even impact investing products. However, we have to be transparent of what we can do. Always keep in mind, fintech is all about scalability and standardization. So there's a limit, but still, it's better than just have an ETF portfolio.
Thank you. Mr. Rinker, do you want to add?
Yeah, your question was also about the clients, right? Mm-hmm. And what type of clients you attract, and then how to deal with that. So it's very interesting to see what type of clients do have an interest in that. It's not only the young people, it's really also, older people that are entrepreneurs, people that have a very different mindset. So we call them the people that are open to explore new things, because that was in the past, to invest in sustainability, you needed to be a bit more open than others. And I think you have to really make them big believers in what you're doing. So the way we choose was to be extremely transparent with our work, with the portfolio. So we just launched this tool where every client can see what's the climate degree, what's the footprint, and they even know more sometimes than our client advisor. And we get calls from customers, say, I have here a red color in Chile. Can you please improve the portfolio? I don't like this. Can you please do that? So, we have exposed ourselves to the customer, which at the end is a good thing, because it will make us a better company. We'll improve by skills. But I think that's what it takes to be innovative, to expose yourself to the market with new approaches.
Mm-hmm. You said before, if you have a job where you can change something, you should do it, Mr. Gasser.
Yeah, indeed. I like very much what I hear, because I strongly believe that the banks need to push. First of all, as you said, I think we lag behind. The Swiss banking lags behind, not in general, but in certain aspects of the ESG, whole ESG issue. So we need to push, and for that purpose, we produced guidelines for the banking sector that give some help and support how to advise your clients in order to bring them to the point where they really are convinced to invest into ESG. That's extremely important. That has to go quick, and we try to really help on that by publishing our guidelines. But that's only one part of the issue, and I'm not quite sure with regards to old and young clients who is more prone to invest into ESG. What I strongly believe is that civil society has a very important role to play. In Switzerland, for example, Climate Strike is a Swiss-wide network of most of them young people who really make us aware of what can be done and what needs to be done. So this is extremely important that both sides work together. I strongly believe that we can be the world leader in sustainability, not only with regard to global wealth management, but only within Switzerland we can leave a footprint. But there needs to be both approaches, the one with regard to the client, and to advise them in order to invest, but also the awareness. The awareness must be there in order to provoke the clients to ask for these kind of products. Who of ourselves ask for example, our pension funds, how they are invested? These are points that need to be clear by the clients and also addressed by the clients with their bank, with their insurance, with their pension fund. And for that purpose, both sides, the civil society as well as the industry, need to work together in order to reach that common goal.
Well, thank you. Since we are already approaching the end of this panel, and since Christmas is approaching too, I want to give you the opportunity to actually define a wish that you would like to say for the next year. What do you wish when it comes to green fintech for 2021? I start here, Mr. Lucatelli.
That it's a standard of any fintech provider in the asset management, that we don't make a difference between ESG, non-ESG. It is, by definition, sustainable. We don't offer other portfolios, full stop.
Thank you. Mr. Rinker?
I would like to wish that we have a longer perspective when it comes to investing, because we are extremely short-termism. And we had a request for a proposal some 20 years ago from a UK pension fund, and they said, okay, we give you the mandate for 25 years. How would you construct a portfolio? And it was so different from all the other results, because it makes a huge difference whether you look for the next 3 months or maybe for the next 3 or 5 years.
And Mr. Gasser?
Well, it's simple. Tell the truth and act. Tell the truth in the sense that we need to become transparent, that we need to know what's in the product. And then I very much like what you just said, Adriano. Everything will be sustainable in the short run, I hope in the short run, at least in the long term. And for that, in order to become sustainable, I wish that the clients of banks and insurances will finally decide to go sustainable completely as soon as possible.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experiences. I wish you all a very good day, very Merry Christmas, a good and healthy start in the new year, and thanks again for participating.